Welcome, Maria. Thank you so much for joining us to celebrate World Day of Social Justice. I'm very happy to host your nonprofit Emfasis Foundation that is making strides for bringing social justice to homeless people. And you have really dived deep in this domain. There's a lot of perspective and spectrum of homelessness that people do not know about, and we'd love to know about that, how your nonprofit is doing that, how did you decide to start this, what are your operations like, your programs, how was the pandemic like, and a little bit about Greece as well. So before any of that, welcome, and how are you, and how are you doing?
Thank you, Nandini and Goodera team. It's a privilege to be part of this, incredible opportunity for showcasing the work, not just of Emfasis, but a lot of other organizations that are operating in this domain. First of all, just because you mentioned, yes, a little bit about Greece. Greece is a blessed country and is mostly known, of course, for its incredible islands, for the wonderful summer holidays. And we are grateful that Greece is known for this. But of course, every coin has two sides. And sometimes we actually find it very difficult to make people understand and be aware that our country, despite being blessed with so many natural beauties and islands and the sea and the incredible peninsula, is also very much suffering for the last, I would say, 10 to 15 years because of the financial recession. Since 2008, Greece has entered, unfortunately, a recession that was due to the overall European crisis and world crisis. And the country has suffered incessantly since then with extremely, I would say, strong financial problems that themselves have led to a series of cascading problems, such as increase of homelessness, increase of unemployment, especially in the youth sector, increase of millions of households being affected by the loss of income, by the very harsh taxation issues that our country has had to sustain because of the European Union wanting, its subsidies back. So all in all, since 2008, we have seen a gradual, I would say, increase of homelessness and many other people living with the imminent threat of homelessness. The Emfasis Foundation was created as a result of that feeling that so many people were now in despair, because either they were already being driven into visible homelessness, or they were few steps before ending up in homelessness, so they were in invisible homelessness. Emfasis Foundation applied the methodology of street work, and it meant, in a nutshell and in very simple words, that instead of the people coming towards us to ask for help, or coming towards the state asking for help, we create a human map indicating which areas were mostly affected, and we were the ones to reach out, which I think was a very unique approach. We were the ones who took the information by the various sources, whether it was the neighborhood, whether it was the schools, whether it was social services, and we were able to know which neighborhoods, which areas, which districts of the capital were mostly affected. We took our street work teams there. We approached those people. We tried to build a relationship of trust with them. And slowly, with small steps, we tried to find out what were exactly the needs of these people, whether they were on the medical, on the financial, on the work, on the family level, and together with them to decide which would be the next steps. And in order for this to work, we both had to enter a kind of unofficial agreement that we are Emfasis, you are the person in need. Let's sit together, let's make a plan. You commit, I commit, and we take the necessary small steps to improve your current situation.
All right. Thank you for that introduction. And I'm very curious now because the term is very unique, street work. So I want to understand that. Could you tell us a bit about the inception of this word, and even before that, how did you come up? How did you enter this picture? What motivated Maria to enter this philanthropic space? Were you always there, or what motivated you?
Thank you for this question, Nandini, and it brings me back to my core inspiration. Exactly. So since 2000, I have been involved as a volunteer in various organizations because I left Greece in 1992 to live and work overseas, and that gave me the opportunity to be exposed to various parts of the world, mainly Southeast Asia and the Middle East, as well as the parts of India, where so many opportunities of being helpful and contributing to a cause was very evident and available. These places of the world are very vulnerable to natural disasters, and overall the social structure does not always allow for the vulnerable to receive state help or the kind of support that they are in need. So being exposed to places like Vietnam, Laos, Malaysia, many parts of China, places like Nepal, Tibet, and other places already were extremely, how shall I say, inspiring. And it does teach you how insignificant and how small you are. But together with a group of people that can make a difference, how impactful your work can be. So, and later on in places like Kolkata and other places of India, where I had the honor and the privilege to work together with other NGOs, we quickly understand, and I personally quickly understood, that it could be a drop in the ocean, but that very drop was not there before you decided to contribute. So it could still be small step and a small drop, but it can still have an impact on people. So when my own country started to have these issues in 2008, 2009, and it became really visible in 2010, and people from my own family and social circle were asking me whether I would be able to help, I was actually quite shocked, because I thought, well, I'm helping in places that are, if I'm allowed this term, traditionally vulnerable, but my own country, I wasn't quite sure what I could do. So when I started to travel back and offer my services as a volunteer, I started to realize the extent of the needs and the extent of people being actually vulnerable and affected by it, because they were losing their jobs, they were in debt, they had to pay back mortgages and other commitments that they were not able to meet. So I started to contribute financially together with some other Greeks of the diaspora. But very quickly we understood this was not just a matter of sending money. It meant you actually had to get involved yourself and being able to control your contribution and measure the impact. So in late 2012, it was no longer avoidable, it was unavoidable, that we had to set up our own transparent legal structure so that we could manage those finances and dig deeper into the needs of the people. So Emfasis was born, and at that moment it was only thought as a transparent legal structure that could manage financial contributions and making sure that it would reach the people in need, and all transparency criteria were met. Little that we knew that, almost 10 years later, we now have so many different, I would say, so many different ways and programs and relief programs that it is covering from and supporting people in need, not just the visible homeless community, but also families that are in imminent homelessness. We take care of people in senior age, above 65, that have been exposed to homelessness or their situation is very, very vulnerable. We have supported even refugees and families that were, flooding into Greece with no permanent roof above their heads. We have been supporting families below the poverty line. We have gone to different places of Greece because also we had our own share of natural disasters, fires that left thousands of people with no roof. We have had recently also earthquakes. So right now, in our own very grassroots way, because not much has changed in our structure, we're still a very small team, but we enjoy an amazing network of volunteers. And I have to say at this point that Emfasis would not have been able to survive and to, I would say, to increase its radius of activation without the amazing network of volunteers.
Awesome. And there was so much information that you gave me, and I have so many more questions about your journey and also Emfasis. So I'll talk about Emfasis first, because that's what needs attention. So as you mentioned, right, that you are heavily dependent and loved by the volunteer network. So I wanted to understand that for your beneficiaries, is there a fixed measure how you select, okay, this is, you pass this criteria for homelessness and now we could help you? Or is it more, is it black and white, or is it more gray? How do you select your beneficiaries? How does that homelessness, the multiple dimension of homelessness work out?
First of all, I think it is very important to stipulate our fundamentals when applying our methodology, our streetwork methodology, and our help. First of all, for us, anyone who does not have a permanent and safe roof above their head, even if they live in a deserted building and we cannot see him with a naked eye, even if their roof is dependent on unclear criteria. For example, they receive hospitality by a third party, but that hospitality can be taken away at the discretion of the person who extends the hospitality. If we live in a place where we don't feel safe or doesn't have the basic hygiene conditions, if we are forced to sharing the roof with many other people without our consent, and so many other terms that are stipulated by FEANZA, the global body that advocates about homelessness. All of these conditions, Nandini, are described as a shape and form of homelessness. So let's just demolish the first stereotype that a homeless person has to necessarily live out on the street or on a bench or something that is caught by the naked eye. That is no longer the case. So our beneficiaries and our criteria of extending support is the fact the very fact that they do not have a safe roof above their heads that they themselves can describe as something safe with the basic conditions of hygiene, and where they do not need to comply with other, let's say, I give you roof because you will give me free labor, or I give you the roof and in return you have to pay me back in some other way. This should not be the case. So our street work team that consists of a social worker, of sociologists, of other mental health counselors or legal counselors, or overall trained professionals that can go and have a physical look at where this person lives. So if we judge that that person does not have a safe, permanent, hygienic roof above their heads, to us they are homeless. If a family lives in a let's call it a flat, the flat has no windows, has no toilet, doesn't have utilities, doesn't have electricity, doesn't have running water, we consider them to be in a state of homelessness. If a young student has left its hometown and is being given one sofa bed somewhere, and that sofa bed can be taken away, and in return, for example, the owner of the space is asking for cleaning, or is asking for that student to cook or to provide with some free labor. If that student is not in agreement or did not agree in those terms and conditions from the beginning, we believe that he's been given this sofa bed as an exchange that he has not agreed to. So somehow they are being taken advantage. This is a form of homelessness. If they live in a building that is neglected or deserted, and that building is dangerous and again does not comply with safe conditions, we consider that person to be homeless. So we would go to the place, to the spot, we would do a survey, we would, let's say, conduct a mutual interview with these people, and then we would categorize them as homelessness and in need of support. Sometimes the form of support is for them to find a temporary shelter, or to find, if they have underage children and they are exposed to danger, we would look for emergency temporary accommodation, because there is no way we would like to have this family exposed to dangerous conditions under any circumstances. Sometimes older citizens, they have been promised that they can pay this amount of money to be given some form of basement to live in, or sometimes it's a parking, a garage, a warehouse. So many, we have come across to so many different incidents and cases where people are being promised one thing and then they discover that it is actually not the case. So in all of these different cases, Nandini, we would evaluate, we would visit, we would assess, and then we would extend the kind of help that is appropriate for each case.
All right, Maria. So this is something huge, right? That people are being promised something and then they are living in inhumane conditions without their agreement or their consent. So I'd like to understand a little bit more about this. And so I wanted to understand this space wherein whoever you're helping, your beneficiaries, and you provide them shelters, you help them get out of that situation, right? That is done. So what is the next step? Is it like a continuous engagement that you have with the beneficiaries, or is it short term?
This is a fantastic question. So the next step is the most important part, because the idea, Nandini, is to empower people to be able to sustain a better life condition, not to institutionalize them and to be always in need of Emfasis Foundation or anybody else to help them to be practicing their most fundamental right, and that right is the right of housing and the right of health and the right of education and so on. So the next step is to sit down with them and to see, for example, what is their situation? Are they entitled to receive some kind of a state benefit? Are they in a condition that they can, we can find them a job that will, let's say, guarantee a minimum income? Are they entitled to receive some family support from estranged family members or from other supportive social background that they can help them at that particular moment in their lives? Do they have any pressing health matters that we need to take into consideration and put together a health plan that long term, after 3 months or 6 months or 12 months, would allow them to engage in work or to do some other kind of occupation or to contribute in some other way that would guarantee some kind of income? All of this, because every person, we have to understand, every person is unique. Every person's condition is unique. There is not one remedy to apply on all. The only remedy that applies to all is that we stay with them, we support them with our advisory, with our, let's say, different kind of experts that can give them this very valuable guidance. And the base and the foundation of all of this is to build their morale, to make them again believe that they are worth a second chance, that they are worthy of our attention, of our love, of our humanity, of our solidarity, and they are not just excluded in the society and the society doesn't care about them. The main thing is to lift their morale, their trust in themselves, their belief in themselves, that they can improve, they are capable, and they're worthy of a better life. And together to explore exactly what I mentioned before. Is it a health issue? Is it a relationship issue? A lot of times we have found out that it's because of the bad relations in the family and the tension, and that it has driven people to opt for homelessness instead of staying put in the family. Is it a bad work accident? So that we can give them advisory of how they can pursue their rights and to claim what they are due and what they are, what is their right. Is it a matter of lack of training? We can guide them and we can sponsor training, work training. Is it plumbing? Is it carpentry? Is it, teaching them how to be a cook? Is it guiding women that are single parent families to, go into part of housekeeping or cleaning or anything that can give them that financial independence? That, of course, it needs time to be built, but it is light at the end of the tunnel. And this period of time is critical. It is critical that these people are given even a second-hand phone so that we can be in touch with them. Because tracing the people on the street, tracing the people that are in imminent homelessness, contacting them, being able to get hold of them is one of the major drawbacks, okay? So we have to make sure that we give them also the right kind of tools so that they stay in touch with us, that they continue to feel that they are part of a mutual effort and have their consent. We do not decide, Nandini, what is the next step. The next step, it has to be decided mutually. And if they are not on board, this journey is not going to be sustainable. They have to agree and they have to be on board. That is why it is essential we don't look for miracles. I'm sorry to say miracles happen very rarely, and we love miracles, but true life is not based on miracles. True life is based on calculated small steps leading to a very small progress that will feed that person the self-confidence and the morale boost that they need to see that yes, something better is happening every day, that yes, I can have, I can actually, for example, we will give them food vouchers and supermarket vouchers to push them to feel like they're going towards a more normal life, not the life of the socially excluded homeless, but they should go to the supermarket themselves, to the mini market, to any fruit and veg market, and buy the things themselves again, holding some tangible money in their hand, so that they remember how good they can be in managing their own microfinance, even if it is just a couple of euros or dollars, because that is another way of enabling them to mobilize themselves. We do not want to be the crutch. We want to be the support. They must make those steps themselves.
I love that. And since you've given us so much relevant insights on this, I wanted to make it a little more focused. So 5 myths that Maria would like to bust when it comes to Greece, when it comes to homelessness, and when it comes to your foundation. So just in 5 or 6 sentences, I'll give you an example. So my idea, or most people's idea of Greece, is beauty and islands and luxury and holiday. So you brought this other aspect of Greece as well, right? So just like maybe 5 or 6 myths that you would like to bust about this.
Greece is a country of beauty and gorgeous islands and beautiful places all over the country for memorable honeymoons and holidays. Nevertheless, Greece right now has almost 40% increase in youth unemployment, which leads to almost 50% of an average Greek family not being able to meet all the day-by-day living expenses, such as pay the rent, pay the utilities, provide for the children, for their education, for their health coverage. And almost, I would say, 60% of the working people today, they have a very heavy load of mortgages or debts, which have been inherited by the financial recession of the last 15 years. And they have become part of the load that we carry on our shoulders, and our children and our grandchildren, before they're even born, they carry this national debt already on their shoulders. So we are still having probably one of the lowest minimum wages in Europe. We are in desperate need of an increase of earnings, because the inflation that we are facing right now with energy, low wage, loss of income, extremely high youth unemployment, very high taxation versus income, and also the increase of imminent homelessness, which we ourselves have statistically discovered that it has increased by 34% in just 12 months. So all of that is leading to the realization that our beauty should also penetrate our life standards, and being able to have a Greek family not suffering from all of these financial constraints and loss of income, because we are very quickly being driven into a financial impasse.